What if I told you that I was attempted to be arrested by the HOA? No, really fake badges, handcuffs, etc. What if I also informed you that they weren't actually police officers? Only two commandos with clipboards for cosplay, under the direction of a woman named Clarissa, who thought she was the united reincarnation of Judge Judy and Napoleon. I'll back up. My front door almost blew at the unusual hour of 5:42 am when someone pounded on it as if they were attempting to collect a medieval debt. With my 9-buddy Duke jumping out of bed like a missile, I woke up with my heart in my throat. Like the hounds of hell had RSVP'd for breakfast. He was barking. Cop instincts never sleep, so I grabbed my badge and sidearm while still half asleep. And when I looked through the peephole, I thought I could see a fight between neighbors over garbage cans or a domestic call. I saw them instead. Two males appeared to be trying out for the low-budget 21 Jump Street sequel as they stood on my porch. They both wore uniforms that appeared to have been pieced together by someone who simply winged it after searching for police on Google. The initials Hoy Law Enforcement and an eagle were featured on their badges. This is an acronym for the Homeowners of Independence, in case you were wondering. Two guys and a laminated card is a sophisticated way of putting it. Channeling his inner Top Gun, the man on the left put on shades before the sun had even risen. His friend held a clipboard as if it had the nuclear codes. My expression was calm as I opened the door, but my blood pressure wasn't. May I assist you? Before my coffee had brewed, I questioned, prepared to accuse them of posing as law enforcement. Clipboard guy inflated himself like a mall police officer with grandiose illusions. We're with the Homeowners of Independence Law Enforcement Division, sir, he said. Hold on. We're here because there have been several infractions of community policy. I blinked. HOA officers, like a poorly done tattoo. I let the words to sink in. You are aware that's not a real thing, aren't you? Your vehicle is a commercial vehicle, and it is in violation of our overnight parking regulations, said Sunglasses Guy without flinching. I looked in my driveway, thinking perhaps my daughter had left her car there. No, my police cruiser was the topic of their conversation. My fully equipped, taxpayer-funded, county-issued police cruiser before I could describe how ridiculous this was. The voice reached me. Clarissa, Duchess of Doom, Queen of the HOA. She carried her Starbucks cup as if it had been forged in the Mount Caffeine fires as she strode up the walkway with a swagger that befitted a power stroll. Her yoga pants were so tight, I was worried about her circulation, and her blonde bob was expertly designed. She appeared to have just left a suburban overlord's high council meeting. With pride in every word, she chirped. I told you he was breaking the rules. The HOA expressly prohibits government or commercial vehicles from spending the night in residential areas. And that thing, as if it were a nuclear warhead, she thrashed her fist at my cruiser. It is a clear infraction. And she wasn't finished. Additionally, German Shepherds have been added to the new banned list, making your dog a restricted breed. I glanced down at Duke, my companion, guardian, and four-legged warrior who has received more training than these two dimwits put together, ears raised and still snarling. The tension in the air was greater than Clarissa's disguise. Clarissa, the first whispered softly, using all of my last patience. The HOA has no authority over law enforcement vehicles, to start. Second, there are no breed restrictions because Duke is a working 9 here. Third, I said, gesturing to the two fictitious officers, these men are not real cops. Clarissa cocked her chin as if she were getting ready for an oil painting. She remarked, "Oh, but they are, darling. We decided to create a private security division at our most recent HOA meeting. In my capacity as president, I approved the hiring of officers to uphold our regulations." I blinked once more, slowly. I reiterated, "You established your own police department, and you're attempting to detain the county sheriff herself?" "Oh, we're not trying," she remarked in a sweet, maniacal voice. "We are, with all the bluster of a sitcom extra." Clipboard guy took the stage. We will be forced to detain you for interfering with HOA officers if you do not comply, sir. Additionally, dear reader, that's when I snapped. Not in my head. I chuckled. Tears in the eyes, coughing, deep belly, full body laughter. The type that makes you chuckle when someone threatens to use monopoly rules to remove the mayor. Sunglasses guy didn't find it funny. You must accompany us, sir, he stated firmly. I continued to laugh as I wiped my eyes. I answered, all right, gentlemen. Why don't you demonstrate your legal power to me? Which law are you referring to? Which YouTube academy did you graduate from? Like he was searching for the Holy Grail, clipboard guy began to shuffle through his notes. But Clarissa was already devolving into a despot. She yelled, I don't need your approval. You must be removed because you are not adhering to community standards. With a groan, I took out my phone. Clarissa's self-assurance wavered like a hurricane-tossed candle. Who are you phoning? She insisted. You'll see, I predicted. And she saw, boy. Outside, 2 black SUVs skidded to a stop 30 seconds later. My real deputies appeared like heroes from action films. Uniforms ironed, sidearms gleaming, badges glinting. Deputy Sandoval grinned and nodded at me. Are things going well, Sheriff? I pointed to the cops dressed as cosplayers. These 2 claimed to be here to take me into custody. On what authority? Sandoval asked, turning to face them. Pale, clipboard guy said. HOA? Yeah, so that's gonna be a no. I smiled. It is illegal to impersonate an officer, and boy were they gonna learn that. Guy in sunglasses turned to face Clarissa, his voice faltering. You made no mention of illegal. Clarissa abruptly realized she was the only one left on this flaming ship and took a step back. This is harassment. My lawyer will contact you, Sandoval responded. Oh, you bet we will, and produced a pair of handcuffs. As soon as we receive yours, Clarissa screamed as he read her rights. You haven't heard from me yet. This is my neighborhood. Sandoval grinned contentedly as he clicked the shackles closed. You don't anymore. Additionally, as Duke attacked the 2 phony police officers who were attempting to flee, clearly demonstrating why he wasn't merely a restricted breed. With the pandemonium of the early morning still engulfing me, I inhaled deeply. Another day in paradise, or, as I prefer to refer to it, the neighborhood where the sheriff was attempted to be arrested. In August, Clarissa's confidence began to fade like a bad spray tan by the time we got her into the interrogation room. With her arms crossed so tightly across the table from me, she appeared to be attempting to contain her own anger. The tight little smile that people wear when they know they're screwed but haven't come to terms with it was plastered against her lips. Her 2 HOA commandos were already perspiring through their cheap polyester next door. And after 10 minutes of stillness and a vending machine, Snickers, Deputy Sandoval had managed to get one of them to break. They weren't exactly skilled agents, to give you a hint. However, Clarissa, she has the long term in mind. She said, I have connections, as if it meant something. This is going to blow up in your face. Because you're harassing me, I reclined in my seat. No, Clarissa, pretending to be an officer will backfire in yours. Like a teenager who has been grounded for the weekend, she rolled her eyes. You're exaggerating this. There was a miscommunication. Sandoval intervened at that point with a document so thick it might have been a college dissertation. With exactly the proper amount of dramatic flair, he dropped it onto the table. Misunderstandings don't usually involve organized fraud and fake fines, he replied, swiping the folder across Clarissa. She glanced down at the document, but she made no attempt to open it. I had previously committed most of it to memory, so it was okay, because any white-collar criminal would be envious of what we had discovered in less than an hour. Clarissa was more than just a control freak with a clipboard problem, it turns out. With a private empire based on intimidation, fictitious regulations, and checkbooks, she was a full-fledged suburban tyrant. We were able to track down hundreds of dollars in fraudulent HOA penalties that never reached any actual accounts. Rather, they found their way into a charming little slush fund that Clarissa had established in the name of the HOA. However, the transactions, to put it mildly, they were as subtle as she was. Botox injections, luxury shoes, and spa treatments were all subject to fees. Oh, and a whole week at the Bahamas, all-inclusive resort that reportedly qualified as community outreach. For networking, in her yoga pants, she had been managing the HOA like a fucking Ponzi scheme. I casually opened the folder and Clarissa, the first must inquire, how do you maintain composure when you bill someone $400 for excessive mailbox aesthetics? That house had a tacky rooster statue next to their mailbox, she grumbled. I gazed at her. Not a burning pentagram, Clarissa, but a rooster. As if I didn't understand community standards, she shrugged. What about the man you punished for having a too noisy garage door? I inquired. It was loud, she yelled. I clarified it's not a stealth drone, it's a garage door. Sandoval said at that point, turning to a different page, what else is intriguing, do you know? The previous 6 elections for the HOA blinking, she said. How about them? Well, he responded, our records show that you have served as president for 6 consecutive years. However, it's funny that nobody remembers how to vote. Similar to a fish in denial, Clarissa's lips moved back and forth. That is absurd, is it? I slid another sheet over and replied, because the handwriting on each and every ballot we recovered is identical. Her expression was a slow-motion car collision as she froze. She realized then that she was no longer in charge. They had her in custody. She still had some strength left, though. She yelled, this is a witch hunt. You're all trying to harm me. I grinned, the type of grin you give someone who is only 10 seconds away from being charged with a felony, but isn't even aware of it yet. I said, Clarissa, you pretended to be above the law for years. Now you can discover what occurs when the law doesn't cooperate. She sagged in her chair, just enough to be considered cracking, but not enough to be considered defeat. What are you looking for? She muttered. I looked at Sandoval, and there it was, the first rip in her armor. I declared, I want everything. Names, dates, fictitious infractions, the location of the funds, your methods of concealment, and the way you persuaded those HOA puppet board members to comply. She extended her hand. I need a lawyer. She did, of course. The only wise thing she had said all morning was that. Excellent, I responded, stepping away from the table. We'll begin the paperwork. She turned to face me as Sandoval escorted her outside, her eyes displaying one more glimmer of her former Clarissa defiance. You're committing a grave error. I crossed my arms and leaned against the doorframe. The error was assuming you could run a neighborhood like a mafia family and not get caught, I stated to Clarissa. As soon as she left, I let out a breath, from contentment rather than relief. Since I've worked with thugs, thieves, and even outright cartels, taking down a suburban tyrant who believed she was untouchable because she had a Facebook group and a label printer, however, is particularly fulfilling. What's the best part? This was far from being over. You see, while Clarissa was busy preparing her legal defense and most likely searching Google for can I sue my own HOA, the neighborhood was awakening. In addition to calling and emailing, neighbors were also bringing stories, pictures, paper trails, and a lot of pent-up anger to the station. And when they entered the room, their faces were all the same. The time is going to run out. The woman who received a $200 fine for unapproved lawn decor was one of them. What did she do wrong? A welcome mat with the words, "Go away" on it. The man whose shed was demolished due to the paint hue being psychologically aggressive. The person who received 3 fines for failing to display neighborhood spirit is my particular favorite. What the devil does that mean? As it happens, Clarissa had not only been avaricious, she had been meticulous. A full-fledged HOA dictator with a perverted sense of purpose, spreadsheets and fear tactics. However, karma, after a while, she appears. Clarissa too, she would soon meet her. Thursday night was the scheduled day for the HOA meeting. The neighborhood was bustling like a beehive after someone kicked it, and Clarissa was out on bail. And me? I arrived full of popcorn energy and had no desire to get involved. This time I wasn't present as the sheriff. I just happened to be a guy who had a front row seat to witness karma do what it does best, which is clean the house. The community center was crowded. People were crowding the walls, claiming every foldable chair, and some even brought wine in coffee cups. Since they were aware, we were all aware that it was going to be a historic night. The news of Clarissa's apprehension had gone viral. There were even the quiet neighbors present, the ones who only ever left their porch to carry in Amazon boxes. What about the atmosphere? To put it simply, it was more of a witch trial with baked goods than an HOA meeting. The other members of the HOA board were perspiring. When the teacher arrived early, they appeared to be children caught cheating on a group project, because even if they hadn't assisted Clarissa in her suburban autocracy directly, nor had they stopped her, and people have stopped acting as though it was acceptable. The doors then opened. Then she entered, Clarissa, still sporting tight yoga pants, immaculate white sneakers, and hair pulled back as if she meant business. The outfit of a lady who felt she was in charge. However, something wasn't right. Her makeup didn't match her neck, her haircut was a little frizzy, and her expression was a concoction of denial and terror with a dash of delusion. As if she still owned the room, she moved to the front, lifting both hands in the manner of Moses at the HOA's recreation of Mount Sinai. Okay, let's calm down, she murmured, attempting to sound composed. There was no calm in the room. Someone shouted from the rear, "Clarissa, you stole from us!" Another yelled, "Queen Fraud, where's our money?" I was fined for using LED lights that weren't warm enough. Warm enough for who? A woman hissed. And truthfully, she was right. Clarissa grinned like a funeral salesperson trying to sell you essential oils. A lot of false information has been circulating, she stated. And I'm here to explain. At that moment, a man with a stack of infraction notices stepped up. He said, "You fined me $400 for not cutting my hedge to community height." Clarissa, you really used a ruler to measure it. You also claimed that my welcome mat was hostile. Another person yelled, "Bless this mess," mine said. Did you interpret that as a threat? Clarissa was rapidly losing control as the room erupted. Bless her phony heart, though, she made an effort. "I've taken every precaution to keep this neighborhood safe," she yelled. "I have enforced the rules to maintain peace and order, to keep our property values high," I said from the back. "You sent phony police to my house." Very nonchalant, as if I had only remembered a somewhat annoying issue. Oh, and let's not forget that little gem, and attempted to arrest the county sheriff. One of the more reserved board members then got up. Jean, a former school administrator, had the voice of a lady who had spent 30 years dealing with unruly fifth graders. She displayed a piece of paper as though it were a weapon. "Clarissa," she said, composed yet strong, "a majority of homeowners must vote to remove a president, as stated in the HOA charter." Clarissa blinked. "What are you discussing?" Jean stated. "We have signatures. A petition to have you removed, effective immediately, has been signed by 84% of the community." And suddenly, whoa, the crown dropped. Clarissa appeared to have had a utility bill slapped across her face. "That's not possible," she growled. "We did already," Jean said. "What about the crowd?" The audience applauded, as though they were witnessing the climax of a revenge film. It was perfect, chaotic, and cathartic. Clarissa began to pace while raising her voice. "All of you are making a grave error. This community was created by me. I kept it tidy, organized, and secure. It will fail without me." "No," someone responded, "we'll breathe at last without you." "Clarissa, you're just another Karen with a clipboard and a God complex. You're not the HOA president," said another speaker. She searched the area for anyone who would still stand at her side. However, nobody was there. Like she had the virus, even her former board friends had silently moved away from her. Then her phone buzzed. Since the cosmos is aware of time, it was loud enough for everyone to hear. Her face fell when she took it out and looked at it, because her lawyer had just sent her an email with the complete list of accusations she was going to face while she was attempting to regain her reign. Financial fraud, document falsification, impersonation, and misappropriation of HOA money. Not to mention voter fraud, as it turns out that she rigged every board election for 6 years in a row. Each and every vote, her penmanship, each and every ballot, a falsehood. She moved away from the podium, slurring her words in exasperation. "This isn't finished," she growled. "You believe you have triumphed, but you are unaware of my abilities." Admittedly, I was powerless to stop myself. I got up, smiled slowly at her. "Clarissa, you used fictitious police officers and a clipboard to attempt to arrest a sheriff in his own house. I believe we've all witnessed your abilities." The audience roared with laughter. Like a powerful hurricane that never quite made landfall, she pushed past people and bounded out the door. She was gone in an instant. The self-proclaimed HOA queen, overthrown by the same people she believed to be under her authority. What's the best part? Everything was captured on camera. That evening, a video of Clarissa's breakdown appeared on Facebook. The heading? HOA Karen is dethroned in public in front of the whole neighborhood. It appeared on YouTube, Reddit, and TikTok in a matter of hours. The harsh and, in some ways, humorous comment section. Her last words were being quoted like they belonged on a t-shirt. "You have no idea what I am capable of." "We do now, honey." The days following Clarissa's shocking overthrow were similar to waking up from a protracted, depressing hangover. It's not until the air clears that you realize how thick it has been. It isn't until the tyrant stops yelling about mailbox symmetry and trash can alignment that you realize how quiet peace sounds. By the end of that week, the remaining members of the HOA board resigned. With only a few passive-aggressive group emails and one particularly insane tirade posted on the community Facebook page, the most of them slithered off without even saying goodbye. However, nobody gave a damn. They were too busy having fun. Like a blast of spring, the interim board arrived. No roving bands of clipboard cowboys, no fake penalties, no power excursions, just sincere individuals attempting to mend what was damaged. It was broken, boy. We discovered that Clarissa wasn't just a penny and dime type of person. She had been conducting her own miniature white-collar conflict. A single mother was fined $300 by her for using excessive wind chimes. Because Clarissa claimed that taupe wasn't a approved spiritual color, another man was on the verge of having to redecorate his home. And the anger, the receipts went on and on. Let's say that month's community potluck evolved into a full-on cathartic roasting session. They even produced T-shirts with the phrase, "Free the wind chimes." I purchased 2. Clarissa, in the meantime, she was going downhill. The criminal inquiry proceeded more quickly than I had anticipated. Because the feds get excited when you're operating a 6-figure scam through a non-profit HOA account, it turns out that she was clumsy in addition to being petty. She kept records, although they weren't very intelligent. As in the HOA budget spreadsheet, which has the tabs for spa, vacation, and wait for it, petty cash, do not audit. In less than a month, she was charged. Mail fraud, wire fraud, voting tampering, impersonating an officer, financial exploitation of a community organization. It resembled a suburban mob indictment with more fragrant candles and fewer bodies. Her home? Supported by the bank, frozen resources, a neighbor recorded her waiting in line at a Trader Joe's when her car was repossessed. Clarissa's Karma Finally Has a Tow Hitch was the title of the video, and it did indeed go viral. She attempted to relocate to a different HOA 2 towns away. However, she was known as internet poison by that point. No one desired her. When she actually appeared at a community meeting in a separate neighborhood, someone cried, "Imposter!" and actually rang a cowbell. Clinging to her kale smoothie as if it were the last vestige of her empire, she departed in tears. And do you recall the HOA meeting video? Yes, that stuff became viral on the internet. It was incorporated into TikToks, reaction videos, and memes. "You don't know what I'm capable of," was her last muttered statement. Became a soundbite that was utilized in anything from dramatic voiceovers for unsuccessful cookery instructions to comedic comedies. It was even tattooed on one guy. "I'm serious. What about me?" At last, life returned to a more regular state. No more HOA SWAT visits before morning. My cruiser will no longer have phony citations taped on it. Community emails with angry subject lines like urgent violation, undecorated mailbox are no longer acceptable. Just tranquility. Duke and I resumed our real-world law enforcement duties. Like apprehending actual criminals rather than watching over power-hungry suburbanites. However, I'll be honest, each time I went through the area in my car, every time I witnessed someone power cleaning their driveway at 7:01 p.m. a family planting unapproved flowers, I grinned. Due to freedom, the fragrance is a combination of noisy garage doors and off-brand mulch. A few weeks after everything had calmed down, I had a knock on my door one evening. It was Jean, the former principal who became a rebel in the HOA. She gave me an envelope and brought me a pecan pie that was still warm. A handwritten card signed by almost everyone in the community was inside. It simply stated, "We appreciate you reminding us that we have some power, as well as for overthrowing the Queen. P.S. We apologize for the noise complaints. We used a bonfire to burn all those paperwork." I kept that card on my refrigerator, next to my daughter's artwork and Duke's certification. Because the most important victories don't always make the news, they simply restore the sense of home. Clarissa attempted to govern a kingdom that was not hers. She reigned with the appearance of control, fictitious rules, and terror. However, in the end, she only needed to knock on one door, which she shouldn't have done. She shouldn't have tangled with one sheriff and a community that at last declared no more. She believed she could not be touched. However, it turns out nobody is exempt from the law, not even in a community with lovely hydrangeas that is gated